Football is a tribal sport. It's us against them, joy and despair. You support a team through thick and thin. Nothing else matters. Yet sometimes there are just things that you have to appreciate. There's the glorious players like Maradona, Messi, Eusebio, legendary managers like Sir Alex, Johan Cruyff, Arsene Wenger. But more than anything, you remember the teams that made you smile and made you feel good. The teams that you'll never forget, like Brazil's 1970 World Cup winners, Guardiola's Barca, Di Stefano's Real Madrid, Arsenal's Invincibles, Saki's AC Milan, the Rangers team who finished runners-up in the 20... Who put this here? Just a wee wind up there, so please don't bite too hard on that. While I've got your attention, by the way, fans of the blue half of Glasgow, can I just say fair play on your run? There's genuinely no punchlines here. Beating Dortmund, beating Leipzig over 2 legs is a pretty impressive achievement. And for me as a Celtic fan, it shows that it can be done in Europe. So thank you for that. I'm not here on this video to take away from Rangers' achievement, despite that intro I just did, which probably goes a little bit against that. Reaching a Europa League final as a Scottish team in 2022, given the disparity between the top teams in Europe and teams in Scotland and other countries like that, is a mega achievement. So well done, but don't try and make it something that it's not, eh? For the weeks leading up to the final in roasting hot Seville, we were told about how if Rangers managed to win the Europa League, the victory would eclipse Celtic's European Cup triumph in the late 1960s. Kenny Miller claimed a Rangers win in Spain would be right up there with the Lisbon Lions' triumph. Strange that, coming from a former Celtic player. Kevin Thompson went a step further and claimed it would be the best achievement ever by a Scottish team. Ironically, the former Rangers midfielder then went on to claim in the same article that he wasn't saying it to be controversial. And then even more ironically, he accused Chris Sutton of having a lack of class the next day. Obviously, the whole point about it being a bigger achievement is moot now, given that Rangers came up short in Seville. But even if they had have won it, would it really have been a bigger achievement than the Lisbon Lions? As comedian Lemmy once said in his Lemmy's Show Muffet a Tea sketch, has everybody lost their mind? Okay, let's try and tackle this then, and I need to start with something incredibly obvious, but apparently not obvious to many people. When Celtic won a European trophy in 1967, it was the number 1 European trophy. It was a European Cup. It's now known as the Champions League. The competition Rangers were in the final of earlier in the week wasn't the Champions League, it was a second-tier competition, the Europa League. So I just need to get that right away. You're not comparing things that are the same here. Celtic became the best team in Europe when they won the European Cup against Inter Milan in 1967. They deserved it too. That Inter Milan team that we beat had already won the European Cup twice earlier that decade, 1964 and 1965. A team that won it the following year, Real Madrid, their 6th success at that stage, all in, were seen off 3-0 by Inter in the quarter-finals. There were other big teams involved. Celtic beat Dukla Prague in the semi-finals. They in turn had beaten Ajax in the round before, an Ajax side with Johan Cruyff in it. So there were good teams in this competition, and it was the best teams in Europe. Rangers weren't playing against the best teams in Europe. See, I've already started detracting away from their achievement, and I promised I wouldn't do that. So I'll return to Celtic. It was a historical victory, not just for Celtic, not just for Scottish football, but for football in general. Prior to 1967, the European Cup, I think, had been going about 12 or 13 seasons. It had been shared between teams in Spain, well, basically Real Madrid, Portugal, Benfica, and Italy with the 2 Milan clubs. Nobody in anything close to Northern Europe had come close, and certainly not in Britain. Celtic won it in 1967, and a new era began with the likes of Manchester United, Ajax, Feyenoord and Bayern Munich going on to dominate in the coming years. And Celtic did it with this amazing attacking style of football. They ushered in a new era of attacking football with the power of the 67 victory against Inter Milan's infamous Catenaccio style. They also did it while only selecting players who were born within around 10 miles of Celtic Park, with one exception, Bobby Lennox, who was born all the way down on the wonderful Ayrshire coast in Saltcoats, which is I think around 30 miles from Celtic Park. The locality of the playing squad makes it a unique achievement. It's not been done before. It's certainly not been done since. It probably will never be done, given the way that football is nowadays. So as impressive as Rangers' run in the Europa League was, it's more than a little bit insulting to even try and compare it to the Lisbon Lions' historic feat. We routinely hear that win in the European Cup in the 1950s and 60s was incredibly easy. You played the dog and duck in the semi-finals and some other pub in the final. That's how easy it was. So why did only 6 teams win the European Cup in its first 15 years? If it was so easy, then surely Rangers would have racked up the titles in the 50s and 60s. Let me just have a wee check and see how many they actually won. Yeah, nothing showing up for that. They must have at least made the final though, no? So it turns out that apparently as easy as it was back in the 50s and 60s, Rangers only ever made the semi-finals of the European Cup. And even then they were completely demolished, 12-4 on aggregate by, Eintracht Frankfurt. Ouch. So in conclusion, if a Scottish team does manage to win the Champions League in the coming years, maybe then we can have a genuine comparison with the Lisbon Lions, but only in those set of circumstances. And as John McGinley of the channel put it earlier in the week, this Rangers team aren't even as good as Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, never mind the Lisbon Lions. So yeah, have a good one everyone.